I wanted to buy this game, but it seems like it might be dying soon. Anybody have any information? Yeah, I heard they might shut down the servers soon.
Oh, it's totally
this
gonna
game's
die.
player base is dipping,
Yeah,
so
see,
I don't know
even
if
though
I'm
it has
gonna
a lot of
the
players,
players,
it's gonna die
why
soon.
your favorite game is
community really
sucks.
subpar.
This game's
It's
gonna
dead
die.
game.
I'm not gonna.
The devs don't care.
The
The devs don't care.
Nobody cares
The
about
devs
this.
don't care.
Nobody's gonna
play that game.
I need you to do me a favor. Think of any popular multiplayer game, just the first one that comes to mind. Okay, well I really hate to break it to you, but unfortunately, that game is dying. Here we have Steam's most popular free-to-play games, and guess what? Every single one of them is about to die. The whole dead game meme is ubiquitous in the culture and has been attacked from every angle. Sometimes declaring the game dead is just pointing out a fact, like when The Calling 2 came out. But most of the time, it's to make a point and spread negativity about a product. It usually starts with the comments section from people that have played at most 2 hours, but usually significantly less, that way they can get the refund after confirming their opinion. This was long enough for the person to realize that they in fact did not like the game and needed to let others know that there is no reason to play it because it will be dead soon anyway. This leads to other commenters that might not have played the game at all, echoing what they saw as a warning to those who might be interested in the game. Mind you that this ritual usually starts at early access or open beta, often before the game is finished or has even had enough time to gain a significant initial player base. In fact, this has gone beyond a single game and has elevated into entire genres like arena shooters, which was shown in early reviews of Splitgate, coupled with the fact that it was not listed under the free-to-play section of Steam at launch, a phenomenon that I will be expanding on in a later video. Even I'm guilty of essentially declaring couch co-op dead back in 2017, which was before the release of A Way Out. This kind of viral pessimism towards a game reached a peak with the unfortunate release of Lawbreakers. While there were many factors contributing to the massacre of this particular game, there was definitely a large group of people who successfully convinced the general public not to buy this product, mainly because it should have been free anyway. Games that were funded by the community get it the worst because founders will take a much stronger stance earlier in development, often saying how they are the reason the game exists and how it's not up to their standards. While there is truth in these posts, it is usually nestled in between miles of angry rants and vicious outcry spawned from the sense of entitlement and power they gain by spending $20 for what essentially boils down to a pre-order to a game that isn't even made yet. Star Citizen has raised so much money and has had such a long development that the discussion on whether or not people will actually play it could be a topic in the next presidential debate. Now what if a game already had a successful launch? Well, it's saved from the first round of dead game memes. There still might be a few here and there from some trolls jumping the gun, but as soon as a patch comes out that people don't like, the game is suddenly dead. In comes a wave of comments. The developers abandoned this game. They killed it with the last patch. I used to love this game. Now it's gonna die. This happens every time without fail, usually pertaining to some type of nerf or buff, and especially when in-game purchases are involved. Some long-time players will even create a video or stream expressing their thoughts on the matter. And then of course there's me, who started an entire channel with the intent of remembering dead and shut down games, but somehow ended up writing an entire dissertation on the statement itself. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened either. Developers are all too aware of how quickly a community can turn on them, creating a dumpster fire of angry comments. This leaves them with only two options. The first is to sift through the wreckage, trying to find the most important things to fix, however long that list may be. Most of the time, the problems a community has are abundantly clear, but in some cases, when one problem is talked about, others quickly surface. The second option is to actively ignore the community to avoid backtracking. While the former makes people happy and keeps them playing, the latter can also be productive when trying to reach long-term goals. However, you can only ignore a glaring issue so long. What you thought were devoted fans will furiously wield their keyboards typing out an entire novel of how betrayed they feel, and sometimes, rightfully so, but most of the time it's just a vent of frustration. These long and drawn-out complaints are usually amended after the problem is fixed or expanded on after being ignored. It has been proven countless times that the players do in fact have a voice and will use it to embellish or exacerbate any situation they are passionate about. One of the largest community outcries was after EVE Online's Incarnate update, which had an incredibly devastating effect for the company. Yet despite being declared dead, EVE Online manages to survive, as is the case for most games, because while a bad patch has the potential to severely wound a player base, it takes a lot for a game to actually die. These products don't just vanish because of an update that went sour. In fact, a vast majority of the time a game will stay up even when the bulk of the community leaves. For instance, Battleright's 1.7 patch had had an extremely negative reception from the community due to inconsistent updates resulting from Stunlock Studios choosing to develop a Battle Royale mode. The new mode ended up being released as a standalone title, and both games have had a dwindling player base ever since, but neither have actually shut down yet. And it's understandable that a bad patch might personally kill the game for a specific person, but once they go out and declare the game dead as a whole and slandering people who made it, that turns the negative criticism into a malicious attack. And speaking of malicious attacks, let's talk about gaming news articles. Saying that a game is dying in your title could be clickbait 101. The people who believe it's true will click it, the people who want to see a hit piece on the game will click it, and the people who have never played the game will click it to confirm that they made a good decision. And furthermore, the people who enjoy the game will click it so they can explain how much they disagree with the statement. It happens every time and is basically proven down to a scientific level. Just take any popular multiplayer game that takes a dip in players at 3 AM on a Wednesday and start writing about how it's suddenly dying. Or better yet, take the opinions of real players and regurgitate the same ideas. That's essentially half the work for the same payoff. The eye-catching title writes itself and even has a negative spin, which is brilliant because, let's face facts here, there's always been a stronger reaction to negativity on the internet. The very fact I'm talking down to mainstream games journalism at the moment is probably the most interesting part of the whole video to some people, but this is the same energy that keeps that industry lucrative. The larger a game is, the more people will consume the content related to it, and unfortunately it's impossible to please everyone. This was made abundantly clear in the wave of Apex Legends articles, where apparently it went from the biggest surprise, out of the park, home run smash hit to sitting on its deathbed all within a matter of weeks. But it's also been stated that PUBG and Fortnite are dying, even though all three of these games still hold an astounding number of players and are part of the most popular gaming genre since the MOBA. In reality, most games are here to stay whether you like them or not. Call of Duty has been killing its franchise with every release for about 10 years now, yet continues to thrive. Madden is a series that consistently lets down its player base and has become a symbol of everything wrong in the industry, yet effortlessly sells over 5 million copies every year. Some games just won't shut down no matter what. Divine Souls, a game that hasn't had an update since open beta in 2014, still has servers up even though the entire community can fit into an elevator. I was still able to play Icon's Combat Arena with only 11 people online. Games with a server room list are easier to play with exceptionally small populations because you're able to choose a specific lobby, instead of being forced to wait in a clearly struggling matchmaking algorithm desperately trying to connect you with what appear to be Martians judging by the 6,000 ping. Games don't just die due to players being upset. The majority of the public knows that. This brings us to the last rotation, completing a full circle of the dead game meme, which is reactionary sarcasm. This is the rebuttal to unwarranted hate and overreaction to problems a game might have, continuing the discussion with strong counterpoints, most of the time stating how outlandish and obviously fake the whole idea is, rushing to defend the game because they and many others still find it enjoyable. While these intentions are good, they can also be as shallow as the original statement. It is the opposite side of the same coin that is constantly flipping. Essentially, every conversation about how a game is dying is split between people who like the game and people who don't. It expands well beyond the game's community itself and becomes a common discussion for everyone, usually breaking down into actually looking up statistics on the player base. Now the conversation is even easier to have because you could just say, well, this game saw a 22% decrease in concurrent players on the Steam chart, so assuming it follows the same downward trajectory, the game can't survive much longer. And the flame war never ends. One side saying how the developers will run the game into the ground, and the other side saying how the game is doing just fine. One side saying how they refuse to play the game now, and the other side saying how it's okay because there's more than enough players left over. One side says the game sucks, and the other side says it's amazing. The same few complaints and counterstatements repeated ad nauseum for all eternity. But oddly enough, people talking about how a game is dying is a sign of it still having a life. Back in the free-to-play MMORPG craze, every new title was labeled a WoW killer. Just the very thought of World of Warcraft dying because of a free game was enough to instantly grab attention. It would have been a consumer's wet dream and marked the end of subscription-based MMOs, but it's a double-edged sword. If a game is expected to be so good that it kills another game, then the standards are set astronomically high from the start. This could lead the community straight back into the dead game argument on launch. Despite a constant bombardment of worthy competition, everyone knew deep down that WoW was here to stay, because that sort of thing just doesn't happen as often as everyone would like to think. Once no conversation is held, once people don't check the player base statistics, and once there's no profit to be made under any circumstance, that is when a video game gets shut down. Aside from extremely unique circumstances, the death death of a game isn't a spectacular, supersized explosion. It's a candle that's slowly but surely running out of wax until the last shimmer of light silently diminishes, leaving nothing behind aside from faint reminders of what it used to offer. That is what the death of a game is. The death of a game is people losing their jobs. The death of a game is drifting apart from old friends. It's a travesty and a spectacle to the general public. But the world demands balance. No matter how good a game is, there will always be an angry player loading full clips of pure rage into a developer they want to take down. And no matter how bad a game is, there will always be a die-hard fan hoping to share their experience despite what anyone else says. If you enjoy me talking about various topics in video games such as this one, feel free to subscribe, but most importantly, have a nice day. Peace.